Czechoslovakia. Just real quickly, how many of you have read A Chicken Soup for the Soul? Can I see your hands? How many of you haven't? We still have a market. Also, the other thing is that if you're going to live long and prosper, Nanu, you've got to have a fortune. Because I'm going to tell you that it's expensive to live long and prosper because there's only three choices. You either slow aging, which we've heard great things about, stop aging, or the thing I'm going to talk about in a second is reverse aging. And then number 4 is permanentize yourself if you're ready. Everyone take your fingers, please. Touch yourself at chest level. That wakes up the subconscious. Say, I'm ready. Shake your neighbor's shoulders right and left. Say, you're ready. So to make sure you have more than enough money, one of the books I wrote, and this is our corporate colors, is 1 Minute Millionaire. If you haven't read it, you want to get it, and you can get it anywhere. But the butterfly is a universal symbol of freedom, and you got to have freedom is consciousness first, spiritual consciousness, then it's money freedom. But we show you how to make $1 million in 90 days. Would that be okay? And it's 2 books in one because I do everything we do is original, transformative to the end user, the reader, and number 3, inevitable that you read it and you go, holy cow, I got to have Sammy or Sally or whoever you love. And we have a little butterfly take off to the top, but we simulated this with more people. I've made more millionaires, I think, than anybody other than Think Grow Rich, which I hope you also read. And so we're in the most wonderful time in the world if you're awake. One more time, touch yourself, say, I'm awake. Give your neighbor a high 10, right and left, if you would, please. So the other day, Crystal and I are coming through TSA, and a lady takes her little license and says, is this true? Is this really you? And Crystal and I are backing up, thinking we're not going to make it to the conference if this isn't right. Thinking that she'd done something wrong or we had a fake ID. Lady says, you're really that old? Crystal, stand up, please. Turn around. Oh, I didn't know. Okay, give her a round of applause if you would, please. I wrote down 267 things I needed in my ideal woman. Impossible, both the positives and the negatives. She had to be a radiant spirit. She had to be happy, had to have travel, have her own money, and not drink alcohol or be an alcoholic or smoke, because I'm not going to kiss an ashtray or anything like that. Thank you. And then the 2 of us wrote a little book, which is becoming a movie soon, which we'll gladly tell you about, called Ask, the bridge from your dreams to your destiny, because what happens is we say you got to ask yourself, then ask others, ask God. Is that easy enough? Say yes. And, and then hopefully you want to do it. But here's the deal. If you want to, I said number 4, you want to permanentize yourself. There's only one way to do it. Everyone hold up one finger, say one way. And we'll do it like we're smoking gun. Everyone go. And that is, you got to write something worth reading or read something or share something worth that it immortalizes you. And the best way to do it is your own biography. Here's mine, written by Mitzi Perdue. How many of you have ever eaten a chicken at Costco? Could I see her raise hand? One of those pre-made cooked chickens? Oh, not many of them. She does 22 million chickens a week, but she wrote my biography called Relentless. I'm not trying to sell any books today, but we started a publishing house called MarkVictorHansenLibrary.com, and I want all of you to do a book. Now, we'll help you ghostwrite and publish your book. We're probably the fast-growing publisher, but there's no way I can prove that. But fiction, nonfiction, but I want you to consider a biography. Everyone say a biography. Every one of you is a living story, a life story. And if you want to be remembered more than one generation from now, you say, well, I've got $100 million or $1 billion. Good for you. The point is, have you written something that's so impactful, because we take your impact story, bring it to life, that it's going to last? Because a bio is a story and the greatest gift of love that you can give your family, your friends, the future, and then the world that's permanent. Everyone say permanent, please. And some of you say, well, wait a second, I don't want to do that. Well, Mitzi Perdue's dad, right in San Francisco, started during the Depression, Sheraton hotel chain, and made 400 chains during the Depression. Then he died, Ernest, and then she marries Mr. Chicken, Frank Perdue. Some of you are old enough to remember the commercials, it takes a tough man to make a tender chicken. Anyone remember that? Yes, no? You're not from America. Where were you born? India? Namaste. Anyhow, the point is, you and I are here to do amazing things, but then you've got to write them and record them and share them so other people get to know what it is that you did or are doing. Let me just give you an example. A guy calls me the other day, he's very rich, and he says, I want you to do my book. I said, great, what's your story? He says, well, I died and I was dead in the hospital for 28 days in a brain coma. I said, whoa, that is a story. I said, what happened? Now, I'm going to do a sidebar and then come back to the main story. When I was in graduate school for 7 years with Buckminster Fuller, most of you know who he is, geodesic domes, Damaxian cars, floating cities, all that cool stuff, 40 books, 110 honorary doctorates. And it was hard, boy, trying to keep up with a genius. Anyhow, the point is, Bucky said, you got two things, and you just heard my dear friend, the doctor from Portugal, who I love so much, we befriended each other instantly. But you got a brain which takes in all the information you're given in college, high school, elementary school. But then the bigger thing you saw that Peter, our other friend, said is you have a mind. Now the mind is eclectic. The mind is bigger than you. In India, they call it the Akashic Records. All wisdom is available to who? Everyone touch yourself, say me. Take your index finger, touch your neighbor's right and left, and say you on the right and left. Touch your neighbor's index finger, say you. If you know how to get there, which is why the line says, be still and know that I'm God. Because once you're in your God consciousness, your higher level, and Peter said 3D is where we live, but 4D is where it happens. Bucky was Einstein's best student at Princeton. Some of you know that. Anyhow, but Fuller would say, hey, look, or Einstein would say, imagination is more important than reality because it's not the physical level that changes, it's the metaphysical level. So now we're back to this first story I'm doing about this guy that's in the hospital for 28 days in a brain coma. And his wife is telling the doctor who she's falling in love with, look, he's going to die. He bought the insurance policy. It takes 2 years to effectuate. On the 29th today, we're going to pull the plug. He'll be dead. I get $10 million. You and I will fall in love, get married. You get 5, I get 5. What do you think? And they're kissing and hugging while this guy's purportedly dead. Purportedly. Everyone say purportedly. Big ass word, whatever it means. Anyhow, I love vocabulary. Anyhow, it's a 29th day. She said, oh, this is the day we've been waiting for. And they pull the plug. What does he do? He bounces up, pulls out all the IVs, all the electronic stuff, and said, I've been watching you from above. See, because physicality dies. Spirituality, you always were. Before you were in your mother's womb, I knew you, is what God says. And you're going to be here after, right? Spirit lives forever. Everyone, how long does it live? I mean, we're at a longevity conference here. We're having ageless evolution. And some of you go, well, I don't believe that shit. I'm an atheist. Well, here's the problem in math. Nothing times nothing equals. Now, some of you are going to object all you want. The point is, only something that you can't have artistry like Leonardo da Vinci unless you've got an artist, right? Or Michelangelo, if you like him better, and whoever you like. The point is, we're here to create. Everyone say, I'm here to create. Now, to feel fulfilled, you can't retire from something to nothing. I wrote the book with Art Linkletter. I don't know how many of you know who Art Linkletter was. Kids say the darndest things. People are funny. House party. Went from 3 shows a day. At 96, I wrote a book with him, How to Make the Rest of Your Life the Best of Your Life. He said, never retire from something to nothing. Retire from something to something better, and be passionately on purpose. What do you got to be passionately? Right, because that wakes up spirit. Spirit is alive. Spirit is thriving. Spirit is dynamic. Spirit is purposeful. Spirit is going someplace and taking you with it. I live in Scottsdale with my wife, and we see a lot of people at restaurants that have turned off their spirit. They've turned off their life. I golf, man, every damn day. And, you know, unless your name's Jack Nicklaus, which we just did a book about him, but that's not, he's on purpose to golf. You all aren't on purpose to go to a golf course every day. Nothing wrong with golf, nothing wrong with anything you do. It just, is it your right livelihood? Because what Crystal and I have done is seen on YouTube, there's 20,000 videos on death and dying and near-death experiences. Every one of them goes the other side. They see the beauty, they hear the sound. You saw the movie with Rob Williams on this. The point is, when you get there, the big guy says, nah, you didn't fulfill your purpose. Hey, dumbass, you didn't fulfill your purpose. Remember what we wrote in this book. It says the bridge from your dreams to your destiny. Everyone touch yourself, say, I got a destiny. Give your neighbor double knuckle jive right and left, say, you got a destiny. Now, how do you get there? You got to ASK. Before you go to sleep at night, you say, if you're spiritual, you say, God in me knows my destiny. God in me knows my destiny. If you're not, you just do it some other way. You say, I know my destiny. I know my destiny. 101 times. How many times? Before you go into sleep. Because then you go into a deep REM sleep, And when you're there, your subconscious knows everything, is connected to everything, and you'll have the answer. But you've got to be smart enough to wake up, have a pen next to the bed. Some of you are nodding because you wake up at 3 or 4. And for me, I wake up at 4 and it's clear channel to God. Have you done that? How many of you are entrepreneurs? Because I want all of you to know you got to be an entrepreneur. And you got to ultimately own your own business or be some part of business that's going to make a fortune, because you're going to pay for this, which is the next thing I'm going to talk about right now. Whew. So we just did a book with John Paul DeJoria, the guy that was homeless twice, took care of himself and his kid, built 37,000 beauty salons in 103 countries, started Patron, done 100 million bottles a month, and now is taking care of people at levels no one's ever taken care of. He's turned around islands, he's turned around parts of Africa, he's made an island down in the Caribbean. Proof, but what he's got is he has just funded a new pill called Oxal that balances blood sugar, and when it balances blood sugar, it gets rid of diabetes. So that's number one. But then he showed us med bed that you're going to lay on, and we're going to empty the hospital. I know we got a lot of great doctors in here, but it's going to heal everything you got, and it's going to take, I'm 77, but it's going to take me back to 38, which is like way cool. Second, we're doing a book with, yeah, I know, I see what time I got. Thank you. I'm really courteous that way. I've owned a $100 million seminar company, so I'm really on it on this one, so make no mistake. The second one is we're doing a book with, thanks to Mark Cafano, who's up here next, with Dr. Liz Parrish, and her kid was born with diabetes 1. She did genetic modification, got rid of it, and he's 20 years old now and has no diabetes 1. We're going to get rid of all the diseases, just like you've heard all day long in different ways. We're in a cool kind. Next, Crystal and I own a company called, you want to go to App Store and go to Nucalm, Nucalm.com. And first of all, how many of you ever have had trouble sleeping? Could I see raise hands? Well, if you use this app, we take you right to theta and you go into deep sleep. During the day, my head's usually swimming because I hear so many people wanting to pitch me on books that by the middle of the day, I get up about 5, but by the middle of the day, I'm gonzo. So we listen for 20 minutes. It's worth 2 hours of sleep. That's one. But the second thing our company, Nucalm, has, run by the top, arguably in our experience, neuroscientist in America, Jim Poole, is what Jim has figured out is he's got it so, back to what you just heard him say, you talk in your telephone, we can read out 100 monitors on you that quick. Click your fingers. How quick? That quick. And Mark and I were just in Vegas at another conference like this, and the guy was with us, and the guy said, I don't blame that, blah, 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 blah. And he says, well, talking to the phone. The guy said, you've got a broken ankle. And the guy said, how'd you know? I just broke it. There's nobody that can know. There's no vibration that can know that that's done. You are your vibration. Einstein said you're nothing but energy is nothing but vibration. Vibration always communicates full time in every one of our 5 physical senses. I just want to make sure I did that story. Okay, last one. I got to look just because I got too much to say. I hope you never have this problem that you want to say more than you've got time to say, because I got 30 seconds left. Anyhow, we would like to help you ghostwrite your book if you're interested. Just go to markvictorhansonlibrary.com or talk to me or talk to Crystal or talk to Mark Cafano, and I'll let him up here. Give him a round of applause for doing a great job keeping this on time. And I want to thank Nick and Sandra for making this happen, because I've loved every minute of it. Thank you all for letting me share. Thank you.
Thank you so. Check. Am I on? Thank you so much, Mark. All right. What were the takeaways? You like to buy what? Say it one more time. Write a biography, everybody. Write a biography. All right. Our next speaker, pretty famous, pretty humble. We're excited to have him. Please welcome the CEO of Fountain Life, Dr. Bill Kapp.
Thanks. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Either one of them.
Okay, one. Okay, great.
So.
All right, guys, I'm going to take you through hopefully a quick 15-minute tour of what we do at Fountain Life, because what you guys have been talking about is longevity, which is why we started this company with Tony Robbins 5 years ago. Myself, Peter Diamandis, and Bob Hariri, all veterans of the healthcare system to some extent. Myself, I'm an orthopedic surgeon. I have a background in molecular genetics. Bob Hariri is a cell biologist and a neurosurgeon. Peter's an MD, and Tony is a world-class entrepreneur focused on health. And the point was, we knew the system was broken. The question is, could we create a model that we can ultimately find a way to democratize and be able to show how we can improve health using the latest technology? Because as you know, we have a very broken system in healthcare. So It's the other one. Okay, so our goal is to extend the healthy human lifespan. We don't know how long you're going to live, but we think you should never live the last 10 to 15% of your life in decline. And that's what most people do today because we have a healthcare system that manages chronic disease. It doesn't focus on detecting disease before you become symptomatic and reversing it so you never have to live with it late. And this is the low-hanging fruit, and you've heard a lot of people talk about that today. This is the low-hanging fruit that's kind of not talked about in medicine, because if you're a physician today, you're really not expected to go looking for problems because we're waiting for you to show up with symptoms. And part of the problem in what we do at Fountain is really this idea of detection, optimization, and restoration. And we'll talk a little bit about each one. So detection. 7 of the top 10 causes of death in the US are totally preventable if we catch them early. The problem is we don't catch them early. So instead of treating disease at its inception, we chase disease. And ultimately, our goal is to find and prevent these so you don't have to live with them late, because we know that 70% of people that die from a cancer today die from a cancer that is not routinely screened for. And we also know that 70% of people who have a heart attack today will not have a symptom prior to having a heart attack. We also know the most common presenting symptom of heart disease today is actually sudden death, because 1/2 of the people who have their first heart attack don't survive. And the American College of Cardiology just came out with a position statement and said, basically, we're not even sure if cholesterol is what we need to be focused on. It's probably inflammation. And we'll talk a little bit about that. Because the reality is we need a new set of tools. If we're going to detect disease early, we can't use these tools. These tools were 200 years old. And yet you don't discuss them with your physician when you come in wrapped around their neck. You don't ask about it. You just rip open your shirt and say, listen to my chest. I have news for you. I can't hear the plaque in your arteries from a stethoscope. It's impossible. Okay. So you need a new set of tools. And that's what we designed, and that's what we built with Fountain Life, is a whole multimodal test where we can start to detect disease at its very, very earliest stages. So we do a full body and brain MRI with the cardiac test, which we could talk about, showing you exactly how much plaque you have in your arteries. We look at DEXA scans, electrocardiograms. You guys can read as well as I do. We look at genetics. We look at biomarkers. We do the deepest dive that we can, because your body is an amazingly complex organ. Today, we know that the average person has between 37 and 40 trillion cells in your body. And every cell does between 1 and 10 billion chemical reactions per second. So if we think we're starting to understand this, we're a long way away. Okay. And even though artificial intelligence is great, right now the AIs don't even know which of the data we need to be looking at. So once again, we don't think that physicians are going to leave the scenario here. We think that ultimately physicians not using AI will be replaced, as you heard Daniel talk about earlier. But once we have all this data, the next step is to use AI. And we spent the last 2 years designing an AI called Zori. It's been used with our clinicians. We've used it on a base model, a multiple base model LLMs. But the point is, this 240 gigabytes of data we can now compress. And now your physician and you, as a member or a patient, have access to your data. And for the first time, you have agency over your health, because you have all your data collected and you've got an LLM that's been trained specifically on longevity. But more importantly, that LLM or that Zori AI that in your hands gives you answers specific to you. And you've heard people talk about population health, which is super important. But today we're in the era of precision medicine, which means you need to know the answers for you, not for your neighbor. It's nice to know what your neighbor says, but everybody, unless you have unless you have an identical twin, is genetically distinct, and you're all individuals. So you want to know not what the law of population averages is. You want to know what's going on with you, so you can become CEO of your own health. And ultimately, what Zori does is she's been trained on lots and lots of data, the 240 gigabytes of data. I'll show you what some of our results are. So the important part of this is we have an AI team sitting next to a clinical team, sitting next to a science team, because as we start to unravel this complexity of the human body, what we want to be able to do is give you actionable intelligence that you can use right now to extend your healthy human lifespan. And we know with the data that we have today, you can make 95 healthy. That's not my data. That's data out of the Buck Institute. You heard Dr. Furman talk about that. We're very fortunate to have Eric Verdin from the Buck Institute as one of our advisors, as well as Daniel Kraft. And today, we don't need a breakthrough in gene therapy to get you to 95 healthy. It's just using the technology that's available to make sure you don't die of something stupid, like Wei Wu said earlier. You don't want to die of something you can detect today that you don't have to live with later. So this is super important. And when we start looking at our data, and by the way, we've had about 10,000 people go through the process. We've got about 5,000 people I'll talk to you about our data. And so we find about 3% of our members, we detect cancer, 3.5% detect a significant aneurysm, and about 14% of people who are walking around thinking they're healthy have an actionable finding. And that could be anything from a significant stenosis in the main artery of their heart to having something wrong with their brain. And the point is, catching these things early is when you have the best opportunity to intercept them. So once we detect your problem, or detect your baseline, then the next step is optimization. And you've heard about a lot of these, and I apologize for the misprint. It got a little bit jilted, a little off center here when we converted it from PowerPoint. But we look at mitochondrial function, hormones, peptides, exercise, sleep, microbiome. We haven't talked a lot about microbiome. I think somebody is going to speak about microbiome. Super important for your health. And then also really targeting inflammation, because that's the driver of a lot of the accelerated aging processes. So once we get you through the optimization process, then the question is, what can we do next? What are the cutting edge technologies that are available that you may not have heard about, that we at Fountain Life scour the world for, looking for the latest technology that has the highest probability of success and that has been either under an FDA trial, because we're very big believers that you have to prove what you do works. But more importantly, we ultimately will have the data, because we have to convince mainstream medicine at some point to adopt longevity. And we're not going to get there unless we've got data, because that group over there, having been one, we live and die on data in big medicine. And the point is, it's a $5 trillion market here in the United States. That's what we spent on healthcare last year. $5 trillion, by the way, it was 1/2 of the entire global spend for healthcare for 4% of the world's population. And as you heard, we rank 60 in longevity. I've heard the number as low as 64. Not a really good ROI, right? So once again, getting the data to collect to be able to convince the rest of the system is super important. So the therapies we work on at Fountain Life, and these are all things that are either under an FDA trial or currently available. One is natural killer cell therapy, which we'll touch on, therapeutic plasma exchange, stem cell therapy, which is now available in the state of Florida, and stem cell re-education, which we're excited about. And then we could talk lastly about adult stem cell banking. So what are placental natural killer cells? Natural killer cells are the cells that go around your body, they kill cancer, and they look for senescent cells. Senescent cells are the zombie cells that are responsible for accelerated tissue aging. Your immune system, as Dr. Furman would tell you, is the most important regulator for the aging system in the body today. And with a healthy, robust immune system, not only do you fight cancer, but you have an amazing ability to wipe out these senescent cells, which are responsible for that. And it turns out the placenta is a source of these natural killer cells. So we're working on a trial with that right now. And so this is a study we're doing with Cellularity, which is a company that Dr. Bob Hariri founded. And unfortunately, the video won't work here, but you can see that orange cell there. Those green cells around it are natural killer cells. And if the video was working, you'll see those natural killers, that orange cell is actually eaten by these natural killer cells. So you have about 1 billion to 2 billion natural killer cells that are constantly circulating in your body. And they're really responsible for this. But as you age, they will go down over time. So if we can augment that function with something from a placenta, we think it has super important capabilities. The second one I'll talk about just briefly is stem cell therapy. People have been going outside the United States about this for a long time. The state of Florida now has approved for the very first time allogeneic, which means stem cells from a donor, that you can do in the state of Florida for 3 indications. We offer these at Fountain Life because we're trying to collect the data to see, do they really extend healthy human lifespan? And more importantly, it's pain, orthopedics, and inflammation that we can treat while we're using that for a proxy for longevity. So stem cells are really like a master reboot disk for your body. And while you have a lot of stem cells in your body, they do decline over time. So can we augment that over time? And that's what the goal is with our stem cell therapy. Once again, these are stem cells that have been in a clinical study. They have been proven in a clinical study to be safe. And so once again, safety is our #1 priority, and then getting results is secondary. So I want to talk a little bit about this next procedure because we're really excited about this. This is an epigenetic stem cell reprogramming that's under FDA trial right now. Dr. Yang Zhao is one of the investigators we're working with. So this is a way of taking your white blood cells out if you have an autoimmune condition. That can be type 1 diabetes, it can be Crohn's disease, it can be Hashimoto's disease. Anything that's autoimmune today, we can take 1 billion of your white cells out through a process called apheresis. It's commonly done. Then we co-incubate them with a specific cord blood stem cell that we've isolated from a sample of cord blood. When they're co-incubated together, it actually reverses the age of your immune cells. And so this is in a phase 2 trial right now with the FDA. We are now doing expanded access for this for members, and we have seen amazing results on people reversing type 1 diabetes, which is an autoimmune condition. We've seen Crohn's disease reverse, and we've seen, in this gentleman, and the video is not going to run, unfortunately, we've seen ALS. So if anybody knows anything about ALS, it's amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. It's Lou Gehrig's disease. It means your nerves get attacked by your immune system. And if this video was working, on the left there, you will see this gentleman could not lift his arms over his head, okay, because the main nerves that innervate the muscles of the proximal aspect of his arms have been damaged. And after 2 weeks of therapy, and I wouldn't believe it if I hadn't seen this myself, because naturally in the field of longevity, you have to have a healthy dose of skepticism. But after 2 weeks, this gentleman was able to lift his arms over his head and walk unaided with a walker. And what that means is that we have the ability now to reprogram the immune system. Now, it's an unbelievably complex system, so we have to learn about this. But the point is, these are technologies that are available that are in FDA trials. So once again, first rule of longevity, don't die of something stupid that we can currently treat. Second one is live long enough to intersect the technologies that are coming in the next 10 or 15 years so that you can then live another day and another day beyond that. Because there's a concept called longevity escape velocity that you may have heard of. So today, for every 1 year you live, you get about another 4 months. Okay, 4 to 5 months is how long we've expanded the human lifespan. But there's a point at which you'll get a longevity escape velocity with technology, which means for every year you live, you might live another one. Okay, and then maybe you live beyond that. So the point is, will that exist or not? We don't really know. So let me run real quick and show you some of our data. Once again, this is super important data that we pulled together. It's about 5,000 members. First thing, cardiac plaque. 90% of our members, age 52 is average. 90% of our members starting at age 20 develop cardiac plaque. If you think you're disease-free, you'll be a rare exception because only 10% of the people we have screened have no cardiac plaque. More importantly, it's a function of aging, but secondarily, 15% of the people walk through our doors thinking they're asymptomatic and thinking they're healthy. They're already asymptomatic, think they're healthy, have at least moderate to severe coronary disease. And what we're able to do with that is that, and once again, if you get a calcium score, not good enough. You need a CCTA, so it's super important. But it turns out 12% of those people, we can reverse their plaque, and 40% we can stabilize their heart disease. So this technology exists today. The second component of this is we looked at this with our AI algorithms, and what we found was that plaque was not most predicted by cholesterol. It actually is hemoglobin A1C. So your blood sugar is just as important as your cholesterol. The point is we're starting to see this data in asymptomatic people, and it's super important. Second thing, nutritional outcome, nutritional deficiencies, super common. We measure this so we can optimize that in our members. We can easily improve this. This is kind of low-hanging fruit, but it certainly makes a big difference for cellular health. And then the second thing is heredity screening. So you may not know about all the genetic predispositions you have, but you certainly can learn that. And that does give us a kind of a benchmark to look forward with. And then the second thing is cancer. So the GRAIL test, which is super important, we use that GRAIL test, but we also use whole body MRI because the overlap of those two tests is what allow us to see huge improvements. And then in addition to that, members with elevated liver fat, all of these things that we know that are causing decreased longevity, decreasing lifespans can be detected at its earliest phase. And once again, you need both these tests. They overlap, super important. Last thing I'll finish on is brain age, because a lot of people are concerned about that. We can measure now the portions of your brain that are responsible for accelerated aging. And 1 out of 4 members who walk through our doors have an accelerated aging profile. And literally half of those members within a couple of years have a reversed aging profile or have seen significant improvement. The largest inflammation, one of the biggest drivers of neuroinflammation are things called white matter lesions in your brain. And I was taught in medicine you could not reverse those. Turns out you can. And half of our members were showing this. So I bring this up because even the area of responsible for dementia, which is the area of the hippocampus, you can change all of this. The brain has amazing plasticity, but you have to do the right things, exercise, diet, things of this nature. So last thing, this is all available today, and whether you get it through us or someone else, the future is super bright for longevity. But once again, I encourage all of you, you are going to have to be the CEO of your own health. We're dealing with a population collapse. In case anybody is not paying attention around the world, the world population is now below replacement. The United States is in dismal straits, as well as Western Europe, and there aren't going to be enough young people to manage the tax base to take care of all of us as we age. So you have to be proactive about your health today and become the CEO. And for that, I thank you.